You are now listening to Carly's Couch.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
Welcome to Carly's Couch. This is Lextopia.
And this is Carly Carpio / CC Fierce, depending on which social media you use.
And we are ending out 2020 with a couple more episodes left. So stay tuned. We're glad you're still here. We're glad you've been with us all year. I'm looking forward to the new year, actually. I don't know about y'all, but yeah, I know it's not really any different, but also, yeah, let's keep it moving.
Keep it moving. 2020 has been a year. Oh, it's been a year. It's still not over yet, but we're almost there.
Just another reminder to leave us reviews, leave us 5 stars, leave us a voicemail on our number, which you can find at carlyscouch.com. We love not listening to you. We love hearing from you, rather. I feel like lately we've gotten the most comments on YouTube now, so starting to get a lot of comments there as well. So feel free to watch us on YouTube if you're a listener, and if you're a watcher, feel free to listen to us via iTunes, Spotify, all those things in the car or whenever you get a chance.
Basically, we're meeting you wherever you are. If you want to have us on in the background as you're working, if you want to listen to us while you run, if you're one of those people that listens to podcasts when you run, can you listen to podcasts and things whenever you work out or whenever you're being active?
I don't, but I can. I don't listen to anything though. But I work out with people, so I don't really listen to, or we'll just have music on. But I probably wouldn't. I like listening to podcasts when I'm driving and or if I'm just in the house.
Yeah, I've had a couple people tell me, man, I used to listen to the podcast every day driving to work, but since we've been working from home, I've been missing out. And so
make it part of your morning routine. Wake up and while you're getting ready for the day, you can put in your headphones and hit play then.
Absolutely. Or take a little walk around the block, around the neighborhood, maybe walk your dogs if you have them, and listen to us. So
today we are talking all about pettiness. Being petty, how to deal with petty people, how to deal with your own pettiness, etc. I feel like we all have a little bit of pettiness in us, if not a lot, and we definitely all can think of people who are petty. Or is that true for you, I guess?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Carly, what are some examples? When we talk about pettiness, what does that look like? What are some examples?
Oh, man. The first thing that kind of comes to mind is people, those people in your life who always bring up old shit. It's if you made a mistake or did something and they always kind of label you by that, I feel like that's super petty. That's the first thing. It's man, I've grown so much since then and all this. And you steady bringing up old shit. I feel like that's super petty.
Yeah, it's kind of they're never letting something go. And so they're always using that against you. I would also say people who are pushing your buttons. So knowingly doing things or saying things that they know is going to agitate you or try to get a reaction out of you. I feel like that's pretty petty behavior.
Mm-hmm. And also making really big deals out of really small things, turning something tiny into a life-altering occurrence. It's really not that big of a deal. You just wilding for no reason.
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because as we're going through all these examples, I'm thinking of one person who fits every single one of these for me. Shout out Kyle. Another example of being petty is being vindictive. So if your first reaction when something happens is to get back at the person or do something back against them, then you're probably pretty petty. I'm known, and maybe this is me being petty too, but I'm known for stealing Kyle's lighters. And so it was one time he found out, he was like, oh, wow, so that's my lighter. Oh, you got another one. And he was like, you know what? Bring all of them to my house. And I forgot why I had to. I think I had lost a bet or something. He was like, bring all the lighters to my house and I'm going to take all except one of them or something. And I was like, dang, I got deboed. But I did that. But now ever since then, I'm obviously even more gung-ho. When he be having a couple lighters out, I always slip one in my pocket. So now we just have this ongoing back and forth thing where, he just realized yesterday when I was talking to him that I had took one of his most recent ones. So I found out he had a secret stash of nice ones, which immediately I was like, bet, I'm going to find that stash. So, yeah, those are all examples of being petty in a couple different ways too.
Oh, man. I would also say something kind of funny about it, about like pettiness, and the lighter side is like if you know somebody doesn't like something and you do that anyways. For example, one of my best friends, shout out to Kim, doesn't like glitter. But every time I mail her something, that shit is full of glitter.
Yeah.
Every time. Just because I
Yeah,
know
that's
like
petty.
she hates it. But that's still my best friend, so shout out to Kim.
That's a
Be
good
on the lookout
example.
for the mail.
Another example of pettiness is if you kind of get a thrill from somebody you knowing not doing something well or failing at something. So like kind of trying to make light of them failing. And if you're that person who kind of brings attention to it, like in the group, if you're like, oh man, you know, she ain't pass her certification test, but blah, 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 blah. And like, you feel like you always have to kind of talk about like where people are not doing well, or kind of in a gossipy way too. Like, oh, you heard what's the name broke up, or yeah, they're not doing that good in their relationship, or, you know, things like that. That's kind of petty because nobody asked you and you're just feeling like you need to broadcast it.
And I feel like we all know that one person or have people who do that. And it's like, why, bro? Like, why is this always the topic of discussion? Another one is being condescending towards people and the way you talk to them, the way your speech is, and like your tone even, and how you're having conversations with people. Like, you're belittling them or making them feel smaller. Like, that's super petty.
And to encourage mediocrity. So if this kind of goes with kind of noting people's failures, but if you're wanting to see people not be as good as you, then it's like, if they're talking to you about an issue, you might be like, oh yeah, that girl, that's cool. Like, don't even worry about it. Like, you don't even have to finish that right now. Or, you know, it's okay to take time, things like that. But sometimes that could be petty because really you just don't want to see them be great.
Mm-hmm. And then the definition of pettiness is undue concern with trivial matters, especially of a small-minded or spiteful nature.
Yeah, so that fits in with kind of all the things we've been saying. Where would you say you fall on the scale of 1 to 10, like with considering yourself petty?
Man, so myself and my ego are two very different answers, but I would say for myself and how I live life, probably a 3. I'm not super petty outside of childish things. Mm-hmm. Like mailing the glitter bombs to my best friend.
I see. So more like on the lighthearted, like trying to be funny type thing.
Absolutely.
So that's an example, like with the glitter of being petty. But then a lot of times what's petty is like we said, pushing somebody's button. So kind of harping on like a sensitive thing about them. So in general, like its nature is to be semi-harmful. But like depending on your relationship, obviously it's like there's a certain amount that you can get away with as far as being playful, being sarcastic. And then there's kind of when like it just kind of builds up like, all right, bro, like you're doing too much. Or it's just too much back and forth. Like we're going at each other all the time.
Mm-hmm. How petty would you say that you are on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say maybe like a 4. In the different styles of pettiness, mine would probably fall in like the condescending and or like sarcastic section, but not on like, I'm not spending a whole lot of time on people or like giving them that much energy or reactions for things for it to be like if something happens to me, I'm just going to remember that and try to be petty and, you know, I'm going to buy your master's in 10 years. Like I'm not doing all that. So I would say it's pretty low as well.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think people enjoy being petty? Like what is a motivation? Like why would someone want to be petty?
Well, it technically feels good. So we talk a lot about like brain chemistry and all those things. One of the things about pettiness is it kind of comes from a little bit of competitive nature as well. So if you're a competitive person, your brain actually registers that as rewarding to get back at somebody or to kind of have your like zinger or, you know, do your thing against them. Random examples I just try to think of and throw in the middle of throughout the episode is everybody's had probably an experience where whether you have roommates or coworkers and you put your food in the fridge and like maybe somebody takes your food or somebody eats the last of something that you bought, things like that. And then feeling like you have to now go in and like take their stuff and or even things like being real loud, like, oh, wow, somebody da-da-da-da, just so people can hear you and or stomping around, things like that, right? Those are examples of being petty as well. But in your mind, that feels good because you are like getting something. It's like an exchange. There's always an exchange of energy that we feel like we have to have with people, which is why if somebody says thank you, you feel like you should say you're welcome. Or if somebody does something against you, you feel like you should do something back to them.
Mm-hmm. And then the ways of talking about like it being competitive and broadcasting failures, like that could kind of feel good in a like belittling people. Like we all know people who put other people down to make themselves feel better in situations. And so I can imagine that might be, a drive for some people who are like that.
Yeah, and I feel like when we say that, it sounds so like hardcore, like, oh, people like putting people down. And I think most people do that like in a subconscious kind of way. Not that you're like looking to do that or trying to per se, but it's one of those things I feel like where, you can tell when people are miserable or they're just, maybe not miserable, but like, going through some stuff. Maybe they're super busy. Maybe they're kind of unhappy or whatever. And it just seems like they're a little bit more snippety or, in the way they respond to you or whatever. I think it's kind of a reflection on that. But so it feels good because it's like misery enjoys company, perhaps, to the point you just made, where if I'm kind of like feeling some kind of way, now you kind of want to get other people on that level too and drag them down too.
And I think about this in like comparative superiority. So it's like, even if my life isn't together, at least I'm better than that person. And, like, well, at least I don't smoke weed or, whatever that bar is that you're using to measure. And so like Alexia said, a lot of times it's not even consciously, but if you notice yourself saying, well, at least I'm not, and then you think about a person or something, you might need to think about that.
Yeah, one way to tell if/how petty you are might be to measure how much you react to things and to people or to stuff you see online, whatever it may be. But how you react and how fast you react probably can give you a pretty good indication. So what is the actual harm in being petty? Because like we said, sometimes it's kind of like going back and forth with people. You can be like, oh, it's just words. And we're not talking about like crazy revenge or anything. So, why is it such a thing to really even pay attention to?
Well, if you think about those areas where you might be picking at somebody's insecurities or vulnerable spots, like that can really break people down and break relationships down. So even if you're trying to be funny or trying to be, the devil's advocate or whatever in your friend group, like think about how what you're saying and what you're doing could be hurting people.
Yeah, and also I think it's one of those things too, to continue with that thought that while even like with friends, while it is something you can laugh about or you may be laughing, you may not be taking it that seriously. I feel like over time, though, you can kind of maybe start to internalize it a little bit and or believe those things that maybe are being said and or those attitudes and or look at that person a little bit like, I don't, I wouldn't want to involve them in certain things or tell them certain things or whatever it may be. So I feel like over time, it can kind of wear at you. Even like with Kyle, like, man, he's so petty that it really, at one point I was like, damn, I don't even think this dude likes me. Like, all he does is fucking roast me. Like, he told me he hopes I die before him so he can roast me at my funeral. So he's like being ridiculously beyond petty. But also I was like, damn, I hope so too, because that shit sounds entertaining. but he's like the worst person I know. But after a while, I was like, I don't want to say nothing to you or whatever. And I remember one time, not that it escalated into anything, but I just do remember one time he was asking me like a real life question. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. And he was like, oh, maybe I need to back up a little bit because I feel like you think I'm really like trying to be mean and I'm not, which I didn't. But also, like I said, like you also not going to be super open with people that always are remembering things or looking for something to like bring back up or whatever. Like he has hella videos of me being crazy, like all kinds of stuff. He's known for having like footage of everybody. And so with a person like that, you're going to start watching how you are around them. So yeah, I think that's like the harm in it is that just overall, it kind of can break at a person a little bit. And it kind of can falter your relationships in that way.
Mm-hmm. And that sarcasm and the fear that something you say or do or share can be used against you can cause you to pull away or not be your full self and bring yourself into full situations. So.
Yeah. So for those people who feel like they are very petty, I know a couple people who pride themselves in like, man, I'm a petty person. And I feel like I can see that too, like online sometimes when people are like kind of proud of being petty, which whatever, that's fine for you. To me, as soon as I hear that from somebody or see that, which I've heard it very recently from somebody close to me, I'm like, why? That feels like such a waste of time. Like, for what? Like, it feels like you can tell that person is like waiting for and or like looking for something, and it's like spending a lot of energy to think around how you can hurt somebody, for lack of a better word, because it's not that deep about hurt, but like trying to get at somebody or get back at somebody. It's so much energy. But if you are that person, how do you feel like you can be less petty? Or maybe I shouldn't ask y'all because clearly I can't talk back, but I'm going to tell you how you can stop being so petty.
So, well, the first thing I think is to evaluate and see how, like, make yourself aware of how petty you are and in situations where you could be doing that. And then once you gauge your level and what those areas might be, to practice acceptance of people and those things around you, and to try to be less judgmental about what's going on and what people bring to you or share with you. Yeah,
I just thought of an example with that, like trying to be less judgy. So one thing with me is when I'm with certain people, I'm not really on my phone like that. And so if I'm like, all right, we're about to watch a movie or we're about to do something specifically like that, spending time together, then I'll get kind of irritated if it's like, people automatically just pick their phone up every few seconds. And then I know I can be like that at times too, but I'll have to literally kind of stop and slow my brain and be like, all right, Lex, like, maybe you can be irritated about it, but when you become that person who, like, later, if that same person might be like, what'd you say? And you're like, oh, because you're always on the phone, or like, you keep saying stuff, you notice you bring up that thing all the time, then it's like, all right, like, either like you don't need to necessarily be like judgy towards them, or you need to pay attention to how and why that's irritating you so much, and then what you can do so it's not like a big deal as much to you. In some cases, yes, that may be having a conversation with somebody and like expressing that and letting them do better or do differently if they want. But also at some point it's like, dog, you're on your phone all the time too. And it's just that now at this point, while you're trying to do something, you don't want to see them on their phone. So that's an example that I can think of where I remember I like started thinking in my head later, like bringing it up, like, oh, so because you know, on the phone. And it's almost like I started just seeing that all the time because that's all I was like being annoyed by.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's a big thing for me too. And I've had to have the whole conversation with myself too. Like, why is it at this particular moment you're bothered by something that generally doesn't bother you? Mm-hmm. And just thinking through that. I would also say to consider the importance of your time is being petty, and this investment in like either researching or working on, capitalizing on people's vulnerabilities. Like, is it worth it? Is that how you want to spend your time in your life?
Yeah, and it's usually not. Another thing that you can do to be less petty, is to set lower expectations of folks. Not that you can't have standards for the people around you and all of that, but to the same point, our example that I was using earlier, like you probably do some of the same things, or you have your things. You're not gonna expect somebody to like not ever do that, and when you're around, especially if you're around all the time or whatever. So just have less expectations of people on particular things, and or at least like picking and choosing which things like are really the important ones and worth that battle versus things that you can be able to learn to let go.
And in that same vein, like practicing forgiveness and grace with people, like recognizing, like Lexi said, we probably do a lot of the same things. And so giving people grace and also forgiving them whenever they happen to fall short.
Mm-hmm. And then empathizing with other folks as well can help you from being petty. So kind of understanding like why people do the things they do, and or understanding that they're not trying to do a thing, a lot of times can keep you from being petty. There are examples too, like, I'm trying to think back to like the people taking your food. There was a time I don't want to act like I was stealing it, but I would like kind of eat off the snacks, or like I'm gonna make some popcorn or something that wasn't mine, but I didn't have no food, like, and I didn't have a lot of money for food. So also it's like, there's kind of different levels to like why things be happening or what's happening, before you like turn around and like be petty towards somebody for something that they're doing. Cause sometimes there is other things going on as well.
And that's huge to think of. And so we just talked through some ways that to deal with our own pettiness towards other people, but what are some tips or things to think about when we are dealing with pettiness from others?
The biggest thing is, and that we say a lot of times when we're dealing with other people, is that remembering and making sure you're thinking of it in the way that is not about you. that when people are being petty with you, like we said, they're probably going through something. They're kind of miserable. Some people just have that disposition. Some people are just a little bit more like competitive or assertive or aggressive. And so like, it's not necessarily like them trying to, well, maybe they are trying to hurt you. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it's not about you, if that makes sense, or because of you. You didn't necessarily do anything that was wrong as a person. And
gauging that and like just considering on what level you want to get involved, like not spending too much time in those situations, not getting pulled into their like pettiness and trying to retaliate and getting into this cycle of things. Like considering what level of investment is healthy for you in this situation.
Yeah, and don't be intimidated too, because as soon as you start showing a little weakness, man, Kyle again, like he played me the other day, well yesterday, but the other day when this comes out, he always just likes to see me like be confused or be like, not understand what's going on. And we were in a place where the lights were off, but it was like pink lights on. And he said something, I said, is this green? His sweatsuit, because the light was a color. You couldn't really tell what the true color of his thing was. He was like, no, this purple. And I was like, really? Wow, I have to see it when we're in like the regular light. And later I found out because I said something else. Like he kept bringing it up like, man, Lexi, you can't even see, man. She thought this was purple. I mean, she thought this was green. And Sims, who was there, was like, oh yeah, that joint purple because I could see it when we was over under that street light part. Like you could tell over there. And then at a whole other point, Damo had said something about it being purple because Kyle was like, man, is this green or is this purple? And Damo was like, yeah, it's purple. So I'm sitting here thinking like I'm crazy. Whole time, like at the end of the day, Kyle was like, haha, yeah, this is green. I just told everybody to tell you it was purple while you was in the bathroom. So I was like, what? Like I really was sitting here like, am I the one tripping right now? Because I couldn't tell like what this was. But like to really keep it going is like, all right, bro, like you're doing too much. And so like when people are like that though, if you get intimidated, it's almost like they just keep playing with you and keep dragging you along, like keep leading you on. And there's so many examples like that. But you got to like stand your ground and like kind of turn back up a little bit sometimes or know when to.
Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of examples. I'm the baby in my family. And so my cousins hella did stuff like that to me when I was growing up, and I'm sensitive. And so I would be all in my feelings, and that's when they would just like come for my neck, and my mom would be like, you can't let them, you can't show weakness. And so like when thinking about dealing with, petty people is like, it's not letting people walk over you. It's kind of, standing your ground, but also recognizing whenever it's like, all right, I'm just going to walk away at this moment. Like I'm done.
And then you can't get pulled into it either, especially when it's the things like the back and forth. So like this whole lighter fiasco, like it's like, all right, it could be a bigger thing. For a lot of people it is. Things like when you think about, for example, Drake and Pusha T, like that whole beef where it's like, all right, I'm gonna talk about this. Oh, I'm gonna talk about your fiance. Oh, I really want to buy you all of your masters one day so like I can have control over you. Like it's like this long ass beef of just like y'all doing the most, but that's being like pulled into the game of it. And so again, it's like, is it worth it to have that much energy towards it? I don't know. I was entertained, but cool. But in my personal life, like I'm good on having people in my life that it's like a consistent like back and forth, or like they're always kind of playing around with you, or like being petty or being like a friend to me.
It makes me think about The Count of Monte Cristo. And if y'all haven't read that, basically he comes back to seek revenge, and he uses his whole life to get revenge on these people. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, was that enough? Is that how he wanted to spend his time? Or could he have lived a whole great life and just took that L and, went where he was celebrated and where people wanted him? It's like whatever your motivation is in that moment.
Which it brings us to the last tip on dealing with petty people is not to deal with them. So if there is somebody who you're just like, man, it's just like a little too much, like if it's wearing on you, or if it's like bringing your energy down, consistently like that, don't deal with those people. Don't talk to those people if you can. Or, sometimes, a lot of times it's like a coworker or your boss or, people like that I feel like people tend to have stories about like being petty with and towards. So sure, there's certain relationships that you still have to, figure out how to deal with. But for the most part, go where you're celebrated and deal with the people who are going to celebrate you, and or y'all's pettiness is on a friendship level of light sarcasm.
Yep. And if you can't, if it is your boss or if it is somebody, figure out your boundaries and whatever level, like the least level of involvement that you can be in the situation until you can get out.
Yep. So this week, I want y'all to put in y'all stories on Instagram what your level of pettiness is on a scale of 1 to 10. And or you can ask your followers if you put like a poll up, be like, yo, 1 through 10, what would you say my pettiness is? Because I just want to see like where y'all are at, what you might think or what other people say about you. And tag at Carly's Couch and let us know you listen to the episode and where you fall.
Yeah, I got to do that too. I wonder what my number is going to be.
But then the funny thing is that petty people are the ones who be like, oh, you petty. You know what I mean?
Oh, Stacey, I'm about to give me a 10.
Yeah, so like even when you do certain things like online, you know how there's always that person who's like, oh, who took that picture? Or the person who's like, yeah, but you ain't da-da-da-da. And it's like, all right, bro. Like, so those are petty people. And that's an example, again, of being petty. And you might be that person. When I like catch myself thinking a thing like that, when I'm seeing people's tweets or post or anything anywhere, I kind of quickly catch it like, okay, like I'm never actually gonna say that for real to somebody because it just sounds like some hater shit. But yeah, think about that this week, where you are, and we'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know how you deal with pettiness, your own and other people's. And then this week's shout out of the week is Michael Nelder. He is releasing a poetry book in January. It is Birth of Light, Poetry on a Pathway to Self-Acceptance. This book will examine how can one poetic voice be a tool to combat shame and the roles of identity, pain, love, and faith in one African-American man's journey to unlock your voice inside. So we will tag him in the show notes. You can check him out. Michael Nelder, Birth of Light, January 2021.
And did you say the site?
Oh, and his website is michaelnelder.com.
Okay, sorry. I was about to say it, but I was like, maybe she already said it. And that's NELDER.com. Yeah, it'll be in the show notes, so y'all can check that out. And then this week's question for everybody is, what are you most looking forward to over the holidays and / the holiday break?
I'm looking forward to rest, play, and I am working on a couple businesses that are getting ready to launch or programs and things. And so I'm just excited about getting all that together. What about you?
Are you going to have a time off from work, or what does that look like?
I mean,
you still doing like training and still doing all your things?
I'm still doing a little bit of training. The gym, with everything being closed and back on lockdown here in LA, we're just virtual, but we are teaching through the end of the year. A couple classes. So I have a couple classes, a couple clients. For the most part, lots of rest and working on my own projects, which I'm excited about.
That's good. I'm most looking forward to seeing my parents. I'm going to be in North Carolina for a little bit for my dad's birthday and Christmas time. And I guess, I'm trying to remember if I'd seen them this year. I want to say I feel like I did earlier this year, but this year is so long. Oh, my gosh. Because I actually did go on like 4 or 5 trips like by March. But I don't think I had. So I haven't really seen them in a while. So that'll be nice to see them. And then when I'm at home, I literally just like sit around and watch like British TV. So it should be chill because their internet sucks so crazy. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope everybody else is having like a good, looking forward to a time that you can chill, get some rest, like Carly said as well. Yeah, and hopefully you are going to have a good holiday also.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Happy holidays, y'all.